Hey guys, so I wanted to kind of give you some impressions from some test driving that I did earlier this week while everything is still fresh in my mind. I drove some kind of competitors to the Audi S3, maybe nothing as direct as would be ideal, but in terms of what I'm looking for specifically, these are the cars that I liked the best. The Audi A4 is too dated and old, and I'm not really a big fan of it. I do like the performance of the S3, as you guys kind of already know. I want that kind of size. I'm looking for a small, sporty car with a high quality interior, decent amount of performance, and all-wheel drive. Um, so I drove a couple competitors. I drove a 4 Series Gran Coupe, 428i xDrive, and I drove a C300 4MATIC with the Sport package. I did not drive an M235i or the 2 Series because I don't want a coupe. I do want it to have 4 doors. Um, I don't like the CLA 45 AMG, although I did drive a CLA 250 just to kind of see where it was at compared to the GTI and stuff like that, and the base Audi A3. Um, so that's kind of where I'm at in a competitive set, was the closest thing I could really get in terms of being priced kind of near the upper 40s, was the 4 Series Gran Coupe, which by the way looks much more striking in person than it does in pictures. And I really wanted to test out the new C-Class because it's so much nicer than the old C-Class. And it's sporty enough. So although they're not technically really in the same size class, they don't really feel that much different on the inside, especially if you're looking at the rear seat room. Just to kind of rank them, you have the 4 Series Gran Coupe with the smallest, then the Audi S3, and then the C-Class. Surprisingly, though, the C-Class, being a traditional sedan, has the worst rear seat of what I believe is probably in its competitive set. There really isn't a lot more room than you find in the S3, despite it being up a whole class. I think part of that has to do with the more traditional rear-wheel drive layout, with the elongated hood and kind of the cab rearward design of the new C-Class. Um, so let me just kind of go over my test driving impressions. Unfortunately, my camera or phone did die like partway through the BMW test, so all I have is some pictures from that. If you want to check them out, go to my Instagram. It's MerkMilan06, just like YouTube, so I'll kind of stall a little bit, give you some time to open up a tab, check out the car. As you can see, if you're there already, it was the black sapphire metallic. It was a sport line model. Still had a little bit of wrapping on it from the factory. It only had like 20 miles on it. So let me start with the BMW. And I'll throw a couple comparisons in there, but I do want to start with the 4 Series GC. That's my favorite probably BMW in the lineup, and the closest kind of to what I'm looking for. And it's not as common as the 3 Series. And I know they're going to update the 3 Series pretty soon anyway. I don't kind of really want the old model. And I really like the flexibility that the Gran Coupe's hatch gives you. So I really do like the GC. Very striking car in person. Like I said, it's much better in person than in photographs. You can really get the dimensions of it better in real life. In terms of power, obviously it is down compared to the S3. We're down about 50 horsepower and about 25 pound-feet of torque. But still plenty of good mid-range power. Very, very good 8-speed ZF automatic transmission. Probably the best probably the best torque converter automatic on the market. Still a little bit of hesitation and delay. You're not going to get the same type of response and performance as you do with an Audi S-tronic transmission. But still very crisp, clean shifts in manual mode and regular drive mode. Very responsive transmission, very good. Brakes were pretty good. Ride quality was also pretty good. And the steering and handling was responsive. Not really a ton of feel. Again, all the cars do have electric power steering. I do think the S3 probably had some of the best steering. Again, it's a little bit more sport-oriented, I know that. The C-Class had the worst steering. It wasn't terrible by any means, but it was the least sporty of the group, which was kind of to be expected, being that it was just a C-Class with a sport package, and it was the 300 model. But back to the BMW. Yeah, impressive ride quality, I thought, for 18-inch rims and kind of more of a low-slung car. A little bit of road noise, not terrible though, decently well contained. Wind noise, though, was an issue on the highway. I'm not sure if it had anything to do with the white plastic wrapping on the car, but the wrapping was really tight, so there really wasn't a lot of room for turbulence to kind of like make noise. But a couple of goofy wind noise issues going on in the 4 Series GC. The BMW had the worst seats in terms of shape and comfort. You can't really tilt the bottom of the driver's seat in the BMW, so that was a comfort issue for me. The BMW had the worst rear seat headroom. Although I did drive a CLA, I'm kind of leaving that out because it's really kind of the farthest kind of out there in terms of competition. So if you want to rank it them all just by rear seats, 4 Series, S3, C-Class. So the 4 Series had the worst amount of rear seat headroom. The seats were decently comfortable, but in terms of practicality, the seats are pretty, the rear seat was pretty cramped in the BMW. Really strange dynamic characteristic in the BMW. When you came to a stop quickly, the car would kind of rock back and forth a couple of times, which was really surprising and started to get quite irritating by the end of the test. So that was an annoying thing. Leather quality was good, right up on par with the Audi. Both of the Mercedes I drove did not have leather interior. The BMW I drove had a $55,000 MSRP, which is quite a bit above the S3. So to be that far above the S3, to be in sort of competitive spec, and to have the worst seats of the group, that goofy little dynamic hiccup. So with those things, that's kind of enough, I think, to keep that car off the list. Next was the Mercedes-Benz C-Class, again a C300 4MATIC with the Sport package. The dealer did give me an ordering guide for the C-Class. If you guys want me to make a video of everything that's in here, I will. I believe you can download this as a PDF. But just to kind of show you what the Mercedes looked like that I drove, there's an exact picture of it in here, a big one. This car is what I drove. Same color, same wheels. It was a white C300 4MATIC with the AMG Sport package. That had an MSRP of about $51. Let's see, so the interior of the C-Class obviously was the highest quality. The new C-Class really stepped up their game quite a lot with the interior quality of the vehicle. However, despite that, the MB-Tex, which is Mercedes speak for fake leather, in the new C-Class, I was really not impressed with at all. It was really slippery and kind of chintzy feeling. There might have been some kind of conditioner on it from the dealership, I don't know, but it was quite obviously not leather. And to get leather, you have to step up into a package that costs over $2,000, so really poor value on the C-Class, at least for me, to get decent feeling seats. Another interesting thing with the C-Class is the thigh extension on the driver's seat. The extended part is kind of raised up above the main part of the seat, so you can feel this like loaf of bread underneath the top part of your legs. That's what it feels like. It's just a bump, in the front part of the seat. So the Audi is at the same level with the thigh extension, but the Mercedes felt kind of puffed up a bit. The BMW did not have the thigh extensions. Actually, you know what? Maybe it did. I can't remember. But if it did, it wasn't, noticeable and objectionable like the Mercedes was, the C300. The rest of the interior quality was very impressive. The transmission is basically kind of a toned-down version of the BMW. It's a 7-speed unit. It doesn't shift as quickly in manual or the sport modes. It's not a bad transmission by any stretch of the imagination. It's just not up to the standard of the BMW and certainly not the S-Tronic. But it did its job, reasonably well. The C300 was probably the quietest of the group in terms of road noise. Ride quality was nothing to really write home about. It wasn't like, oh, I'm riding on a cloud compared to the 4 Series. Holy crap. No, that's not what it is. It's still reasonably firm and controlled, but it was the least sporting of all of them. But certainly it was sportier than a Ford Fusion Sport that I have, obviously. And the difference between all these cars, the S3, the C-Class, is not really insane like you might think it is without driving them, in terms of how they steer and handle and everything. Obviously, there are differences, but they're not so big that one of them would be like a massive deal breaker compared to the other one, at least not for me. But again, they are all different. I think that's pretty much it for the Mercedes. the Mercedes has about 20 more pound-feet of torque than the BMW, or maybe it's like 15 or 16 pound-feet more torque. But when you really floor both of them, the C300 pulls a little harder. Um, Let me know if you have any questions on anything specific. I'll try to answer to the best of my abilities. This is getting a little bit long, so let me kind of just speed through the CLA, which was a total piece of shit. Um, I know it's based on it is based on the A-Class over in Europe, which is an entry-level hatchback, and they just put a stupid body on it to sell it to people who've never bought a Mercedes before and think they're getting a cool car. So not impressed with interior materials. Fit and finish was fine, but materials, not impressive. Kind of chintzy and plasticky feeling. Road noise was poor. Ride quality was poor. Transmission shift quality was poor. Visibility was poor. It was not a good car. The only things I liked about the CLA were the handling and the brakes. Didn't like anything else. Just being perfectly honest, I didn't. The seats were kind of lumpy. They weren't that impressive. So I could not for the life of me in manual mode, sport mode, any of the drive modes get the transmission to change gear quickly. Some of them are clunky, some of them are shuddery. When you got back on the throttle when you were slowing down, it was just a bad automatic transmission. It's a dual clutch transmission. It's not a good one. Far, far, far behind Volkswagen's dual clutch transmission, or in Audi speak, S-tronic. So the reviews are correct. Interestingly, they do train the Mercedes dealers to say, keep an open mind when you're driving the CLA because of all the reviews and stuff. So it's like, I don't care how open your mind is, the CLA is not a good car for how much it costs. Sorry. Sorry if you have one, but it's not. I imagine the GLA isn't much better. But anyway, so yeah, very, very, very unimpressed with the CLA. That's pretty much everything. Really quick, let me just end on infotainment between the big three Germans. Me personally, I know I am a Volkswagen Audi snob, so call me biased if you want, but I do find Audi MMI to be the most intuitive of the group. I really like to use that one the best. A little bit behind that was BMW iDrive. Excuse me. Oh, let me just burp for you. Yeah, BMW iDrive, a little bit behind that. Still pretty good, though. Fine. Mercedes Command, however, in the new C-Class was very bad. It wasn't terrible. I mean, I could use it, but it was by far the least intuitive. The touch response was horrible. It wasn't horrible, but I did not like it at all. The sales guy even screwed up several times trying to get stuff to work that wasn't working out. It's supposed to in that little touch pod thing they put in there. Almost a total deal breaker on Mercedes Command. So really didn't like that at all. So that's kind of how my test driving went. Let me know if you have any clarifying questions, and I will catch you guys later. Thanks for sticking around for this 13+ minute long video. I will keep you posted on everything else, and have a good rest of your day or night.